Okay, so hi. I'm Essay. So I've got till 3:30, I think. We'll keep an eye on the time. And I'll be talking about identity in singleness. And I wanted to call it being your best single self, but we didn't end up calling it that. So here we are. So I'll be quite quick because I don't want to belabor you. I'm not a preacher. I'm not a pastor. I'm just Essay. Not just Essay, I am Essay. So it's probably going to be more of a testimony / life story / admonition than an actual sermon. So bear with me. So where do I start? I had 5 main points I was going to talk about, and the first was patience. But as an introduction to me, I guess, it's, even though I'm still young, my mum always says, oh, it's like you've lived many years on this planet. So I've had a lot of experiences, and I've been through some ups and some downs, and now I'm in an up, which is good. But I have to say, the main thing for me that I realised is that love isn't something that you just get from the opposite sex. So I go on about Cambodia all the time. I know Josh is going, oh, Cambodia again. But I lived in Cambodia for 3 months, and I went there kind of like fleeing the UK. And my kids there taught me how to love. Sounds a bit corny, but that was why I go on about it a lot. It changed my life in that sense, in terms of it's not often a friend, or it might not be, a romantic partner. It might just be in the situation you expect the least that your mindset changes. So identity and singleness. I got landed with this because I'm always talking about, oh, I'm so happy being single. So here I am. So the first thing I was going to talk about was having patience. So my first point now is you try to be careful not to become tired being alone. I hope that makes sense. And that's something I'm telling girls, guys, whatever age it is. I think even if you're 7, you should be able to spend time with a book. If you're, do you know what I mean? If you're 95, you'll just, I guess at that age you'd want to spend some time alone. But you've got to be able to just not be always seeking someone else or something else, because I think you can soon realise that you don't know yourself. And that sounds really corny again. I'll explain that later. My mum said this to me this morning. She said, oh, your single life. And this is a direct quote. She said, cherish and maximise the benefits. You wake up and you have absolutely nothing, and it's all your day. No one calling you on FaceTime. No one asking you to drop them off at football. No man wanting you to accompany him to his work. So we were talking about not being obsessed about finding the one, which is really important. I said if you wrap up your time in something that's not really benefiting you practically, I'm always talking about theory versus practice, then to me that's a waste of time. I can sit here and talk a lot of theory, and you can go home and it would not have benefited any of us. So from my perspective, I don't think it's pretty for a woman to be obviously on the prowl or just obsessed with finding someone. Everywhere she goes, she's just ready. And vice versa for a man as well. I think any guy who's just looking for someone to have his last name, to me, is just is that all your life has become? Genuinely. Can you hear me still?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Okay. And then a point there is because the reason I say all these things is because you should be careful about making someone your idol. Because I think it's very easy, even as a friend or a guy that you like or a girl that you like, very soon they'll start demanding their own praise and worship. Not in the way we mean, but very, very soon. And you'll be giving it, and you won't realise till years down the line you've given everything for a nothing. And also, if you are being patient, you will not face constant disappointment, because you won't always be looking for something to happen. And if it doesn't happen, you'll be fine with it not happening. And you need to develop yourself. I'll talk about that later as well. And the big thing, I think, for me is missing out on personal opportunities. So if it's not even about the patience in itself. It's more thinking, oh, I'm single, I'm single, I'm single, I'm single, I'm single, I'm single. You're missing out on opportunities you could have done as a single person that you will not get again when you are with someone. Sorry to say it so bluntly, but life changes, and I can't swan off to Cambodia for 3 months when I've got 3 kids and a husband. I don't think that would go down very well. But I did it, and I've done it, and it's done. So, why does God make us wait? I think there are a few... I'm just rushing through this. I'm going really fast, so I'm going to slow down. Why does God make us wait? I think God makes us wait to reveal our true motives. I think we can often think, oh, I want to get married, but when we actually think deep down, we don't know why. And to do anything in life, I believe you should have a reason, else you shouldn't do it. So in waiting for a job, or for a husband, or for a wife, or for money and whatnot, you can really see someone's true motives in their patience. Waiting also builds anticipation. So the thing will be even sweeter when you get it, whatever it is that you're waiting for. Waiting transforms your character in huge, huge ways. If you are waiting in a way that is serving, as opposed to, when is God going to give me someone who can do X, Y, and Z for me, as opposed to, I'm just going to serve God and serve others and become the person that God wants me to be to serve my spouse. And I said to my mum this morning, if anyone had married me about 2 years ago, I'd be a very different person to the person that you'd marry today. That sounds a bit weird again. But I mean, it's just patience changed my character a lot. Not that at 22 I was desperate to get married, but my mindset towards marriage then was, ugh. So, so I think I'll go on to that later, but things have changed. Things have changed. So it's just interesting what a few years can do, never mind. Not saying we're at 10 years, but you never know. Sorry. I know, 10 years, a lot. You never know, you never know. I don't pray that for you though.
I repeat that word.
Oh gosh. And then finally, waiting builds dependency on God. I often say that people in church often say, oh, praise God through the good and the bad. But for me, I realised when I was a bit younger, I praised God during the good and I prayed to God during the bad. As I'm getting a bit older and I'm really understanding what patience means, I am now doing both at both times, if that makes sense. So my dependency on God has increased because I have naturally come to a point where I can't but pray. I've been waiting on hearing back from a job interview for like 2 weeks now, which could potentially change a lot of things in my life. And every time I'm like, oh, I'm still waiting. I have to change my mindset to a mindset of, if it doesn't happen, if it happens, so that means no. So, you know, life has to continue. I can't be sitting, wallowing at home. And my time, don't rush. I'll say this now. I will caveat what I'm about to say after I've said it. Marriage to an unbeliever is potentially marrying your enemy for life. Because my mum always says, Satan will be your stepfather. Not stepfather, your father-in-law. And the reason I say that, and I don't mean, oh, oops, I married a Muslim. I mean, oh, oops, I married someone I thought was a godly man, and oops, he's not. Wow. So it's, you know, that extra couple of months going to his church with him. Did he go to church? I don't know, he says he goes, you know, I found out, oops. Do you know what I mean? So you don't want to be in that situation because I'd rather have a really unhappy courtship and break it than have a really unhappy marriage and be like, oops. Obviously not like that, but, you know, I'd rather do that. And I have this quote here. I think it's from, you know, Bishop Noel Jones. I listen to him a lot. He says, most men pursue pleasure with such breathless haste that they hurry right past it. And then another thing is that this is all just personal experiences. Sorry if I'm like I'm reading my diary. Every time the devil tells you something isn't happening, and I know we're all ready to shout, it was the devil. And when I say devil, I mean anytime your conscience or someone tells you something's not happening, remember that God is working it all out for good. And it's really easy for me to say that because I'm not 35. I'm not I want to get married. I'm still young. But at the same time, I do believe you should continue that mentality all the way through. I think he's switching around. And I had this quote I wrote, I think it was earlier this year, because I keep scribbling things down. I said, I will not be disillusioned. I tell myself I will not be disillusioned because now is the time for action, not contemplation. I cannot afford to ponder over maybes or perhaps. Perhapses. And I'll go on to that later as well. And I also said, I will not fall for anyone circumstantially. I will not govern my life by my emotions. And I certainly will not lose focus. Repeat it. Oh, okay. I said, I will not be disillusioned. I tell myself I will not be disillusioned because now is the time for action, not contemplation. I cannot afford to ponder over maybes or perhaps. I will not fall for anyone circumstantially. I will not govern my life by my emotions. And I certainly will not lose focus. Esther, can you hear me? Can you guys hear me in Newcastle? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay.
And I think the thing for me that I realised was sometimes when you're in a relationship with someone or you like someone or you've been talking to someone for a while and things, how do I phrase this? It's being recorded. and things end. Sorry, let me just get my... And things end. You often think that, I used to think, someone else is around the corner. That's why it ended, because someone else is better for me around the corner. And that, I think for me, that was the realisation for me really early on, getting to grips with the fact that they weren't, and being okay with the fact that they weren't. And then I have this last question for you for this patience section, is, are you ready to answer life when it asks you, where is your God now? When the trials come and situations come or you're brokenhearted and someone asks you, where is your God now? Will you have an answer? Second section. So I've got this one, hurt and barriers. So when you're single, I guess as you get older, you might have liked someone or been hurt by someone. And while you are single, single life gives you great time to overthink everything. So I asked the question of, where is God supposed to reside if you suppress all your emotions? Because there's times when you're so hurt, I'm not going to love anyone, I'm not going to smile at anyone, I'm not going to laugh with anyone, blah, blah, blah. Where is God supposed to fit into that? Because he came to bring joy, and if you don't want joy, then, what's happening there? So I often say, if you are hurt, and I've had times when I've been like, ugh, life, I found I had to search for peace and search for it eagerly, which says in 1 Peter 3:11. So search for peace in a way that you want to make it a characteristic, not just a way you're going to feel for that day. Search for peace in a way that you'll say, Charity or Essay is a peaceful person, or Zoe is a peaceful person. Search for it in that sense. And when you're upset, take that as a time to change something. So after relationships can end or you can get hurt, that isn't the time to be screaming and shouting. That's the time to really reflect and think about what can you change next. Because self-pity doesn't move God. And I realised that early on too. I know I keep sounding like I'm 50 years old, but I think when I was in Budapest, I was there for 6 months and no one spoke English because they didn't want to. And I really learnt that self-pity doesn't move God. I was in church and I was saying, my life, and this happened, and he did that, and she did this. God's not really bothered by your self-pity, because I think self-pity is a bit selfish, to be honest. So self-pity, after something's gone on, you need to make a choice to stop being bitter. It's the same way you say love is a choice. It's the same way you can choose or select your thoughts the same way you select your clothes. Like on Eat, Pray, Love, that quote. But yeah, I really like that film. That's what he said. He said, select your thoughts the same way you select your clothes. And that's profound for me, because you should be able to do that. If you're just letting anything enter your mind, oh, he did this because of that, I need to do this to get him back. Just almost that peace I told you about before, that passes all understanding. That is the kind of peace you should go for, that will help you to not be thinking such things or just be thinking anything that comes into your mind and allowing it. Because deadly emotions will never ever die unless you deal with it. And not in a way, I'm over him now, I'm fine, I can move on, life is good, I'm happy, yeah, where is he? More in a, like, you know that God has dealt with you to deal with it through you. So like my time in Budapest, 6 months with no English, was great because it was almost like there was so much noise inside that I couldn't hear what was outside, which was good. So I could really focus internally on things I had to go through and so on and so forth. And if you find yourself in the same situation over and over again in a relationship or as a single person thinking about a relationship, then that's a sign that you haven't dealt with what needs to be dealt with. Why does it keep happening to me? Why is this guy doing this again? Or why is this girl doing that again? Well, you're the main factor in this whole thing. So figure out what you're doing, not wrong, but differently, or not quite right. And then there is definitely pain in isolation. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, well, single life is lovely, and, you know, I got to work, and my house is where I left it, and I can wake up, and there's no one there. But there is pain in isolation, especially if you're an introvert. Because I'm, believe it or not, I know no one believes me, but I really am an introvert, like, to the core. So even this whole speaking thing, I've got to pretend that there's like 5 of you here, as opposed to all of you here. Because there is pain in isolation. And as a single person, especially if you get older, you will, you know, I often find that God can make you experience things that would normally make you jealous, just to test how you can be happy for someone who's got what you want, if that makes sense. So even in your isolation, you don't have to be searching for something to cling to. As an individual person, cling to God, find a hobby, find something that's gonna, that sounds really big again, I'll go into that later, but find something that's gonna be your passion, that you can carry into marriage or you can share with your children, that's not just, like my quote said, life isn't a hop, skip, jump. I always say that, but it really isn't a hop, skip, jump from like birth, education, marriage, and then death, like really. Well, for some people it is, that's fine, but for me, no. And then my question or my throw-out point for you for this is, I remember when I was a bit younger, and I hated the idea of marriage so much, it gave me energy. Have you ever, but not hated, but have you ever disliked something so much that it's like your life force? Do you know what I mean?
Wow.
I could sit here, the same way I'm talking to you now. I was like, what? And the same way I'm sitting here now talking about this. And so, you know, I could sit for about 3 hours and tell you how good it is to be a single woman, because that's your calling in life, and feminism, and Emmeline Pankhurst, and the whole, I could talk forever about it. And I won't get into feminism, don't worry. But there's definitely, when I say find your passion, that's what I mean. I had to change tack a little bit, because hating something like marriage wasn't actually me hating it. It was me trying to put on some, you know, I'm cool. I don't need a husband. I've got my own money. I'm fine. Which is true. But at the same time... Sorry. But you shouldn't hate something, or you shouldn't dislike something, because if you secretly like something and you're telling yourself you don't like it, that is such confusion for your brain, and it is such confusion. People watching you are always being watched. My mum always says that wherever you're going, someone is always watching you, whether for romantic purposes or for a job or for to lend a pound, I don't know, someone's always watching you. So if you're already putting on this persona of I hate marriage, I'll just skip right over essay, she won't get married. So, lesson learned for me. So, then I move on to pride. So we've done patience, we've done being hurt, pride, which I think is when you think you can accomplish good things on your own without God. And I used to think that. I thought I was amazing. And I still am, but I'm amazing because of God, not because of anything I've done. 5 minutes left. Sorry. Wow. 10. Okay, I'm going to be really Okay, I'm trying to be quick. I can send you guys these notes afterwards because I'm really skipping through them really quickly. So yeah, pride. Again in Budapest, I said to myself, I wrote this down in 2013. I said, what I once considered my strengths became almost like idols that were greater than God. The things I said and the things I did were vetted against confidence, which became pride. Independence became hostility. And I needed humility to return God to his rightful place. Because I thought that it's not bad being single. It's really good being single. But it shouldn't be, I don't know how to phrase this. People that knew me before will know what I mean. But it's like, it shouldn't be your banner. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Even though it's good to have an identity in singleness, it shouldn't be, I'm single, like, that's just me. I say it's a single person, which I am, but it's not something that will be till death, hopefully. So it's not something that will define me. And that's what I used to have it like. And I think dealing with all that baggage before marriage is definitely a key thing. I think God will help you when you stop trying to help yourself. And that's why Budapest was great for me. And everyone else has their own version of Budapest, somewhere you just go and it's silent. Because that was silent for me for 6 months and it was awful, but it was so good. Because we're not so young. I always tell my friends this. We're not so young to be saying, I don't want to get married just because it sounds cool. Because there's power in the tongue, 1. And 2, it's affecting how you're perceived. And 3, it's really messing with your state of mind. Okay. And then, got loads more on that, but I guess I will just have to text it to you. Delusion. I think when you're single, it's so easy to think that a guy likes you or a girl likes you. And then that becomes everything. It is, isn't it? You know what I mean? Because you're single, everyone like, oh, he's hot, oh, he likes me, oh, she smiled at me, she likes me, oh, well, a bit longer, oh, she likes me, I'm going to go and talk to her because she likes, you know, it's like delusion. And that's why I call this section delusion. Sorry. So you have to be, it's that thing I said before about making someone your idol. You have to be really careful that you don't get everything you want in a guy and a girl and then make them your God. It said you should never serve 2 masters. That didn't say, it doesn't specifically mean Satan and God. It could mean God and a man, it can mean God and a girl, it could mean God and yourself. Do you know what I mean? So you should never serve 2 masters. And you shouldn't waste time on maybes. So no delusion. We're too old for that. We're not 12. He doesn't like you, she doesn't like you. If he did like you, he would tell you. If she liked you, well, maybe you should tell her first. I don't know how that thing works. But, you know, just keep calm. No rush. Just keep calm. Because when you get married, that's it till you die. No, that's the person you'll be with, right? So you want to make the right choice, not just, oh, she smiled at me, let's get married. I think you should guide your thinking by something more mature, something more eternal, with a clear focus. You're not a child. I think sometimes in life it's more important and more time efficient to work upon certainties and don't conjure up scenarios or circumstances whereby you've made something very fictitious up and it becomes a reality to you and you waste years of your life chasing after a girl or a guy and then it ends up they're actually liking someone else and you're the one who's now heartbroken from a relationship that never actually was a relationship, but then you just wasted time. Don't waste time. Sounds a bit deep what I'm about to say, but you do leave this world alone and you were brought into this life alone. If you needed, as in needed, it's like you need oxygen, a husband or a wife, you'd have been born with one. Then my final bit is character development. So I left that on a really low point. So this is my main point, I think, for my talk, is to figure out what makes you come alive. That doesn't have to do with the opposite sex or with the attraction from the opposite sex. Maya Angelou said, when people show you who they are, believe them. So you never think you can change someone, because if you developed your character so much and you're with someone who you know could spend a few more years just being Jack or being Jill, all these words from you, just being themselves, then you should never think you can change them. Start to do things today that will bear fruit. Don't wait, I'll be happy when, I'll be happy when, I'll be happy when, and whoa, we're in 2018. Whoa, we're in 2022. Oh, I'm not married. Or, don't always be happy when. Do something today. Travel. Get a hobby. I often say that. Huh? Get a cat. What are you trying to say? I'm not that single yet. I often say to my friends, you try to avoid anything theoretical. Make anything theoretical uninteresting to you. I have found myself in conversations lasting hours about the theory of, I want a guy who is this, I want a girl who, I'm like, because it's not practical, because when I see you with your girl, it's just nothing like what you thought you wanted. You know what I mean? So let's not waste time. So try in your single years to do things that are practical. Get rid of anything theoretical. Theoretical talk only works up to a point. This is theoretical, but I'm hoping you can apply it in practice. So all those, I want a guy who is this, that. Who made you God? Sorry. And then my question to leave you guys with a few things is, what are you doing to make someone's life better today? And I don't mean a guy that you like or a girl that you like. I mean, what are you doing to make someone's life better? Try to deal with any jealousy or anger you may have towards people that have got in relationships before you, or your impatience and your lack of faith. It will not move God. I've said it before. Self-pity doesn't move God. Bless everything that you can possibly bless. Don't talk too much. Don't talk too much. All this theory, I really hate discussing theory all the time. It's not adding anything to my life. Proverbs 10:19, you can check these later. Proverbs 10:19, Proverbs 17, 27 to 28. Don't talk too much, for it fosters sin. Be sensible and turn off the flow. God isn't going to change your circumstances around you because of who you are. Because what good is a changed circumstance if you're the same person going into it? But God never wastes time, ever. So you're just wasting your time, basically, by just trying to think, I'm going to change this, I'll dress this way today, or I'll go to this church. Church hopping, which I don't like. People do, don't like it. That's that. Everything in your past is a deposit for your future. That's my quote again. I really want to have children, obviously, but I really want my daughters especially to know that there was more to life than me getting my BSc or BSc and becoming a Mrs. Really want there to be more for them in that, like my mum did for me. I want there to be more, because I don't want them to have another role model outside of the house before me. Same for my sons too. In the silence, you can hear God. So your single years should be a nice, how many years it is to really sit and hear God. I remember once I was in Croatia and I was, random story, I'll be really quick. The taxis in Croatia are the same as the police cars. So look the same. And it was like midnight and I was lost, because I do that on purpose sometimes. But it was midnight, so it was not a good time. And I was flagging down all these police cars thinking they were taxis. And obviously it was like a black girl in Croatia. Yeah, it wasn't great. So I remember shouting and going, oh, God, you brought me here, and la, la, la. And I remember that so well, because it's because I was alone and silent, I had the chance to not shout at God, but have a conversation. Because other times, life is so busy that you just get caught up in life that you have no time just to listen and hear God. So I was like, oh, this police car, they're stopping me, and a taxi, and la, la. And I just continued praying. I was still walking along, I was just getting even more lost. But because I had the peace and the quiet, just talk to God, I made the most of it. And then, I'm really, really, really finishing soon, I promise. I always said to my friends, and I do believe it for me now, is that, and it's all a process, I want to be swept off my feet but God has to make me light enough for that to happen. Nobody wants to carry a burden. And I'll leave you with this last question. What do you say? I'll leave you with two last things. If you don't have a vision of who you are or with who you are with, where you are and who you are is where you are going to stay.
Sure.
Sorry, I wrote it down and didn't read it out till now, so I'm just like, oh, that's quite deep. If you don't have a vision of where you are or with who you are with, where you are and who you are is where you will stay forever. I sound like a teacher, but no, you really will.